Hello there and welcome to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel and a new card making video. I'm Carrie Rhoades and I'm super excited today to be sharing with you this gorgeous press plate set from Pinkfresh Studio. You can see it here, it's called Always Smiling. We're going to use this today along with the coordinating stencil to create a beautiful one-layer card that I think is pretty quick and easy to do. You could make a bunch of note cards this way, and you can see a little peek there of what this might look like on a card. So there is the press plate set, and then there's a stencil set you can use to color this. We're going to look at each of the stencils in this set. There are 5 pieces. These are layering stencils. So we're going to do 2 different layers, or 3 layers actually, for the flowers themselves and 2 layers for the leaves. They are also labeled stencil 1 through 5, so you can easily know which stencil to do in what order. It helps you decide when you're using your light colors and your dark colors. We also have 3 different sentiments to choose from on this press plate set, and this one says, "You always make me smile." What I love about this is there's a magnet on the inside, so you can stick these down to the card and it magnets right to it. I thought that was really cool. I am going to use the BetterPress ink in Thunder, a light kind of gray color, and then I'll use the cotton paper from Spellbinders for the BetterPress. And you can see I'm using the BetterPress system here. The press plates just magnet right onto the platform there, and then the top plate has a place for A2 size paper that you can fit on, so you can easily line these things up. That's what I love about the BetterPress. It's really easy to do. So once I have my paper taped in place, I'll take that ink that is designed for BetterPress plates, and I'm just kind of like smashing it down and twisting it at the same time to get really good ink coverage all over this plate. One thing you do want to know if you are using this method, sometimes you can scoot your plates. So if you have them in a specific spot where you want them, just take care or note of that. You might have to re-straighten things sometimes. All right, so now I'm putting this platform together, putting that top plate with the paper side down, and then I'm bringing in my die cut machine. Now the combination of the pressure on the BetterPress system as it goes through the die cut machine and the ink on there and that raised plate is what's going to give us the beautiful impression that this makes. And it's so easy to do. I just love making these. It's a little bit harder to see on camera how it presses into the paper, but it's really cool. It's a kind of an elegant look. All right, so we have that. Now we're going to move on to the stenciling part. So I have stencil number 1 here. There are some registration marks in the corners of these stencils, which really help you line this up if you were to put it on your paper perfectly straight. Otherwise, it might take a minute looking at your image and looking at your stencil like I'm doing here and finding a point that really kind of stands out where you can line it up. And I found that, and then I just need to kind of rotate it so that the rest of those gray lines are going to show through the stencil so that they line up well. Once I figured that out, then it is time to start stenciling. I like to hold my stencil in place with some low-tack tape, so I'm just going to do that right on my glass mat, but anything that you like to use for stenciling, you can use right here. And I just found this today to be the quickest thing to do. Tape it right to my glass mat. And then I'm going to pull out some inks that I pre-selected beforehand that I know are going to work well together, and those are inks from Altenew, and I just picked out some colors that I know would look well together, especially for the first 2 layers of flowers. You want them to coordinate together, kind of be a lighter and a darker shade, but really just play with these stencils and have fun with the color combinations. You might come out with something really fun and unique. So I'm using some small blending brushes from Spellbinders to add the ink to this because there are smaller openings and there's some that are really tiny. So I like the smaller brushes for these small openings like this. So the first color I'm using is Rose Quartz, and it's going to be my lightest color, and it's going to cover up most of my flowers on this image. And I'm just swirling the ink on there, and I can add some spots even that are darker and some that are lighter with these smaller brushes. So I really like that. So there's layer number 1 with our first stencil, and then for part number 2 or stencil number 2, I'm using Puffy Heart ink. So I'm using the same brush because this is just a darker color a little bit darker shade than the first color I used, so I can use the same brush and not have to have, you know, a ton of brushes. Like this can be my brush that's just for pinks or just for purples, and then I can switch between the colors. And I did rub it off a little bit on a paper towel in between. All right, so I'm just filling in this stencil. You can see there's a lot less openings on this particular stencil, so a lot less flowers will be this darker color, but it really adds to the beautiful look of this, having that in the two different shades. I think it turns out so beautiful. And you can even swirl around and kind of try to get some of that excess ink that's on the stencil work down into those flowers, and it makes a beautiful look. So we'll take a look at what stencil number 2 looks like with that second layer right now. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Let's take a close-up look. So pretty. All right, now it's time to move on to the centers of the flowers, and for that I'm using this light brown milk chocolate ink and a little bit smaller brush. Actually, I think this is the smallest brush that Spellbinders offers in this 3-piece set, and it works great for these tiny little openings that will be the centers of these flowers. It's just like the perfect size for this project, for this particular stencil. So I'll do each of those and just burnishing that ink in, and then you can see I kind of go back and try to use up some of the ink on the stencil. It also helps for later when you're cleaning these off, which, by the way, I just used a baby wipe for these and wiped them off because it was a small amount of ink on a small stencil, or you could always take them and rinse them off if you like to do that as well. So there's the flower centers. Looking so good. I love how this is coming together. All right, now we'll do our lightest layer for the leaves, and I'm using frayed leaf, yeah, for that. And you can see specifically on this leaf right here, I do leave some of it a little bit lighter than the other parts, and that works really well and looks so beautiful to have lighter and darker areas on any kind of stenciled image, like a highlight. I really like that look. So I've sped this up a little bit, but you can really see how quick and easy these cards could come together, especially if you left your BetterPress plate on the system. You could easily just tape down another piece of paper and crank out several of these at once, and then move on and do all of your stenciling, like all of stencil number 1, all of stencil number 2, and you could get a whole entire set of cards, and you could easily also change out the stencils. Now I wanted to point out there's some really fine areas on this stencil you want to be careful with when stenciling and with cleaning, that you don't accidentally bend those. All right, we're moving on to the final stencil. This is stencil number 5, and I'm using Forest Glades ink right here and making those dark areas on the leaves. So this is really going to help them stand out and give it that finished off, polished look, and it's gorgeous. And here, let's take a look at the final result. Wow, I love it. It is so pretty. So now let's do a little bit of distressing on the edge. I'm going to use hazelnut ink this time and just go all the way around that outer edge, giving it a little bit of that distress look. It's going to help draw your eye into the center. It's really going to transform this image and give it a whole different look. Now you could do this with different colors. You could use some gray ink. That would be really pretty, and just go in with a soft hand. I am using a smaller, like, finger type blending brush for this, and that is helping me keep the ink really close to the edge, and I like how that looks. So just a little bit around the edge and working on my glass mat to start, and then kind of working my way onto the paper also helps to keep that color soft. And I think this is a really cool color for that kind of distressed look. So I'll add that across the bottom to finish this off. And then we're going to add a little bit of splatter. I love splatter. So I'm going to take that same exact color. I'm just smooshing it down onto a window sheet that I use for such things, add a little water, and then my paintbrush is really like scraggly. So I'm just going to drag this color off the edge and get that splatter right down onto my card by just doing the little dragging motion. And that really helps get me fine drops of splatter and some bigger ones because I added quite a bit of liquid to it. All right, then it's time to dress this up with a little bit of confetti that I had in my stash, and that's going to just be that touch of embellishment that this card needs. Lastly, I'm adding it to an A2 size card and it's ready to go. I love the idea of making a set of these and maybe giving them as a gift. I hope this video has inspired you to do some press plate cards, whether you already own it or you want to give it a try for the first time. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again here very soon with a new video. Bye for now.